Hello, my name is Ryan. I'll be presenting today's Academic Success Workshop. So today's workshop is Working for the Weekend, Developing Better Study Habits. So a little bit about myself. I'm the tutoring grad assistant at the Student Academic Resource Center. A little bit about our services. Okay. Oops. Oh, before I get into our services, if you are familiar with Goose Chase, it's sort of associated with the link loot. So this is the instructions on how to cache in your link loot. So you can go ahead and read those on the screen there. So if you're a freshman or first year transfer, you'll probably be most familiar with this. Does anyone need me to keep this on the screen? Or can I move on? Good? Okay. So about SARC. So we have a couple of, I guess I can call them departments. So the first is going to be peer tutoring. So peer tutoring is going to be in a group setting. We also have one-on-ones, and so it's for specifically STEM and business subjects. We are also offering Spanish for the first time this semester. And so you can find us over at Trevor Colburn Hall 117. That's where most of our science and business classes are going to be held. Then we have another room in Engineering 1281. That's going to be where our CECS courses are. Whoops. Alongside that is SI. You might have heard of if you've taken a class that offers it. So the SI leader will sit in your course and offer guided discussion with you at various times outside of class. And so this is a much more, I'd say, personalized to the professor approach than our group tutoring, peer tutoring, which is going to be just for this subject. So you might go to group tutoring and there will be students from 3 other professors there. So it's much more subject-based. Then, of course, our awesome ACE coaching, so academic coaching and engagement. So these are going to be our more one-on-one style coaching in academic skills. So like today, we're talking about test prep, study skills. So that can be a topic that you can discuss with your ACE coach. Another can be time management. Basically all of the Good? Okay. Awesome. Sorry about that. So we're going to have our academic coaching and engagement. So a lot of the workshop topics are going to be things that you can cover in your ACE sessions. Then, of course, academic success workshops, which you all are probably familiar with since you're here. And so those are going to cover, again, a variety of topics. We also have one like finals preparation towards the end of the semester. Test anxiety, I think, was last week. And then, of course, today is study habits. Then lastly is SARC Online. So SARC Online is going to be a great resource for like different handouts. So the handouts that you have in front of you, you can find all on SARC Online, and there's other handouts as well. We also have our OPAL sessions, so that's online peer-assisted learning. And so that's going to be essentially a tutoring session, except it's online. So you'll sit in front of your computer, and your OPAL person will help you with whatever subject it is. Any question about our services? No? Okay. So, question for you all. What are some of the most common challenges that students face in college? Definitely. Yeah. Anything else? Time management, parking for sure.
Working and going to school.
Definitely. Work-life balance is definitely something that a lot of us face. All right, so here's just an overview. So we have increase in course load and rigor. So a lot of times you'll be getting out of high school, you're like, all right, so I just went to class, took the exam, did well, no big deal. You get to college, things are a little bit more rigorous, so you actually have to devote time to studying outside of class to do well on exams. You also have increased responsibilities, so you need to stay organized with your assignments, take care of basic needs. So you may have moved out of home, this is your first time out of the house, so now you're responsible for feeding yourself and doing laundry. So these are all new things that you may need to adapt to. And then, of course, we mentioned the work-life balance, financial burden as well can be something. But so how can we handle this and still study effectively? That's a rhetorical question. And it's study skills and test prep. Yes? Okay, you'll be seeing more of SpongeBob, don't worry. So here we're going to have a little activity, and this is just going to really establish a baseline for you all. So take about 5-10 minutes, go ahead and fill out the study skills self-assessment. So you'll see different areas in like concentration, test prep, time management, persistence I believe is also one. And so go ahead and check off things that you do and things that you don't check off. A little disclaimer, you don't have to check off all 5 of the items under each column to be a successful student. So it's going to really be different for everyone. So you can check off maybe 1 and you still have all A's. So it really depends on the person. Mm-hmm. Yes, Ryan. And feel free to let me know if you have any questions while you're filling it out. Yes. Mm-hmm. Can I have that? And this is more for people that might be live streaming or viewing this after this workshop, so recorded. So you can find this on our SARC online webpage. So you can Google UCF SARC online, and there will be a tab of learning skills resources, and there should also, and then after that you'll see assessment, and so you can find this on our website. So how are we doing? We need more time?
Yes.
More time? Okay. So it seems like some of you might be done. As those that aren't, finish up. Can anyone, so we're going to go column by column. So just one person per column. What's something on here that maybe you read and were surprised by or didn't think of? So for time management, does anyone have one? No? You all knew all five? You all do all five?
I only did 2.
Okay. So which one do you think would be beneficial then?
Well, actually doing them, and
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
I like to think that I do these things, but I just I have one day where I was like, oh, study verse, I'm gonna study,
Mhm.
and then 10 minutes in, and then I take a 45-minute break, and I never go back to it.
Yeah, definitely.
Good. Don't do this, y'all. Example of what not to be in college.
Yeah.
I'm just here and I just show up. I don't read the syllabus. I just go to class. So there's an exam, and I'm like, oh, we got a test today? No, it's the final. Oh, bet. Okay. Just get out my pencil.
And later in this session, we'll talk about like actually making a study plan for an exam.
Thank you.
Yep, for sure. How about concentration? Anyone? Do I need to start picking on people? Yeah.
So I don't do the last one.
Mhm.
Where it's like if it's not interesting, I find me wasting it. It's boring, but I still memorize it anyway.
Mhm. Yeah, and that sometimes that's you don't find the subject important or that it really matters, but if you want to do well in the class, you unfortunately need to learn it to do well on the exam. Because ultimately, that course is going to affect your GPA. So, yep. How about textbook reading? Yes, reading the textbook. So if there is a textbook, knowing that there's a textbook, and also reading the textbook, I know can be a challenge for a lot of people. So even taking time just to review from, let's say, your lecture notes, what's in the textbook can be beneficial. But also, it does depend on the course, so really, gauge whether or not you need to read the textbook, because some professors really want you to read the textbook, others it's just based on their PowerPoint and lecture. So it's really, that's essentially the takeaway from this, is that it really depends on your situation, on the professor, and the idea is that you can try different things and see what works best. How about note-taking? Anyone? Or good on note-taking?
Compare notes with other students, that's wild. I've never done that.
Yeah, so let's say you're sitting in lecture, and I've been there, you're sitting in lecture, you're frantically trying to follow what the professor is saying, as well as what's on the screen. You get to the end of the lecture, and it turns out, I don't know what I've written. So what you can do is, talk with someone else that's taking the class and compare, see what their notes look like, and then you can really fill in the blanks in your notes based on what they have. So collaboration can be helpful. Anything with memory?
Mnemonics? I don't know that word.
Yes, so mnemonics are going to be, so you might know the one for the rainbow, so Roy G. Biv, so that's a mnemonic. So red, orange, yellow, I really hope I get this right. Red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. Yep.
Isn't that an acronym? So acronyms are mnemonic.
Yeah, so they sort of, you're right. Yeah. So mnemonics can also be, let's say you need to know 4 different stages of glycolysis. So you come up with a mnemonic to determine, the first letter of this one is that. Or I think mitosis, the famous one is PMAT. So prophase, metaphase, anaphase, telophase.
Okay.
Yeah, so that's like a mnemonic.
You're a health sciences major.
I was biomedical sciences. Yeah, I'm a grad student. Yeah. All right. How about test prep?
Beginning studying for the exam from the first week, I never start that early.
You are. Let me tell you, you're not alone.
Actually, we all start from the beginning.
So I would say if you can, shoot for, if you're studying like just the day before, start out with maybe 3 days before and then work up to like a week before and then get to the point where, okay, after lecture, I'm reviewing my notes and that counts towards like my actual study time for the exam. And then last thing is persistence. So anything for persistence? You're all hard workers, achieved a goal that took years of work. I mean, you got into college, so
Does that count like high school diploma?
yeah, definitely.
That was barely it. Come on. I'm not discouraged by setbacks. That's a good one.
Yeah, definitely.
Not that I necessarily followed all the time.
Yeah,
But it's good
for sure.
to follow.
All right. So how do you all feel about, I know there was sort of a score at the end. So you can sort of use that to gauge, oh, this is what I need to work on. This is what I'm really strong at. Cool. Any questions about this? No. This is for your use. So go back to it for ideas. All right, so what we're going to do now is dive into specific things that, like specific study habits that may be beneficial or that have actually been proven to be beneficial based on like research. So first thing is studying in the proper environment. So here you can see SpongeBob in the library. Library is a great space to study. So identify a space and also just a time. So let's say you're not a morning person, try studying in the afternoon or the evening might be better. When you can limit your distractions and actually get work done. So here, students who studied in a quiet environment actually study for less time and more effectively. So if you're actually focused, you'll probably get through all of your studying faster than if you're at home, in bed, with the TV on, eating something. So a lot of times that can hinder your productivity, so to speak. Any thoughts on this? Or all good? All good? Makes sense? Cool. So planning ahead. So time management is definitely one of those super important things. We do a whole workshop just on time management. And actually one of the activities we have, you have the handout now, is sort of time management. So it's creating a study plan. So time management is just really crucial once you get into college. It allows you to feel more in control and can actually help you with your test anxiety and confidence. So if you have a plan and you stuck to it, then you get to the test, you can say, all right, I did everything I could to prepare for the exam, so let's do this. And then hopefully the exam goes well. All right. Thoughts on time management? What was that?
We need that.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm glad that we have that handout because you can use it in 2 ways. So we'll do one way today, and you can also use the template just to make an actual schedule for yourself. All right, chunking. So this is going to be more like how you're studying. So chunking is basically when you take a lot of information and you break it up into smaller parts. So for example, I'll use my biology example. So you have all these different phases of mitosis. So you can either try and memorize them all at once, or you can break them up into their individual phases. So we had our PMET, so prophase, metaphase, anaphase, telophase. And then you can chunk. And so you learn one, get it down really well, then you can move to the next one. When you get to the next one, make sure you're reviewing the first one and sort of repeat that cycle. So you go over it, get to the next one, review, get to the next one, review, and sort of base your studying in that sort of mechanism. And again, with sort of the time management, if you start early, you can actually do less work every day. So as opposed to doing 12 hours the night before the exam, let's say you start like 6 days before the exam, that's 2 hours each day, as opposed to 12 hours straight. And you'll probably be more productive in those 2 hours every day than that 12 hours. So generally just avoiding cramming. I know that can be challenging. I know you'll go till everyone will tell you, don't cram, please don't cram, and it'll still happen. So unfortunately, sometimes, life gets in the way, but if you can manage and create like a routine or a schedule, that can really be beneficial so that you don't have to cram. So getting started. So I know a lot of us procrastinate, myself included. So when, let's say you have a writing assignment, like SpongeBob here. So you have a writing assignment, and you have a week left until the due date, and you really know you should get started on it, but you're not really feeling it today. You can do it tomorrow, and then that happens every day up until the day it's due, and then you have to do it the day it's due. So that can be really challenging, very stressful. So try, like, for example, just setting a timer for 15 minutes and get something down on paper. Just the act of doing that can get your brain in the momentum to actually continue working on it and get progress done. And you might find, okay, I'm really in the groove of this writing. Let me go ahead and just finish it. And so you can do that ahead of time so that you can then work on other things, because you're probably taking more than one class. And so you have to juggle all like 3 or 4 different classes. So getting started can be very beneficial. Thoughts on that? I'm doing a lot of talking. What do you all think?
We need to get our lives together.
I wouldn't say that. I have confidence in you all, and I just met you. Anyone else on anything we've talked about so far? Besides,
I think that's
sounds
a
good.
tip. Like, I know like starting an essay is the hardest part. So like, if you just set a timer for 15 minutes and at least get like 1 paragraph done, it'll make it easier for the next time you have to do it.
Definitely. What's a different example that you could do instead of just writing?
It's like small goals. Like, let's say you decided to run a marathon, and I can't run a marathon for sure.
Yes, you can.
But if I, broke it up into small goals, like, all right, let me walk 30 steps.
Mhm.
And you keep doing that, give it a little momentum, and you can keep going farther than you thought you could.
Yeah, exactly. So sort of if you make that metaphor like, oh, I want to run a marathon I want to ace the test. So you're not going to try and run the marathon the night before or train for the marathon the night before. So you're going to want to try and incorporate like some time management. Oh, I need to start like a year ahead of time. Obviously, you're not going to do that for an exam, but maybe a few weeks ahead of time and sort of set up a routine, a schedule. Okay, I need to work out from this time to this time. And then as it gets closer, you sort of up your routine or up your exercise and prepare. Does that make sense? Cool. Oh, and here we go. Create a routine. We were just talking about this. So it can be very beneficial to just make a routine. So I know a lot of times the word routine can have some negative connotations because like, oh, well, I really enjoy having my free time. I want to just do whatever I want when I want. However, schedule that time. So schedule days when you can just do whatever you want. If you make a routine, you can really like schedule when you want to study, and then you just have that off time, schedule that off time. So let's say you want to start studying like during the week, and weekends are totally free. Awesome, you can do that. You don't have to study on the weekends, I promise, if you schedule your time right, okay? So you just treat your schoolwork as if it was like a job. And so you like start, let's say, at 9 to 10. That's an hour you can study. You have class at 10:30. Then you work like noon to 3. Then you have class again, and then you get in another hour or two of studying in the evening. And so you can sort of treat it that way to get yourself in the mindset, oh, I should be doing this. Oh, it's normal. And then, oh, I have time on the weekend where I can relax. So accountability also plays a role. So communicating your plan to others can be very, very beneficial, because they're like, hey, you told me you were going to do this. Why aren't you doing it? If they're like, no, you shouldn't do that, stop listening to them and do your work. Yeah. So working together can be very helpful. Thoughts on that? No thoughts on that. Feedback. Is this good advice or?
Yes.
I like communicating your plans to others, because then it's not just like yourself that you're.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Involving other people can keep you accountable. So why do you all think this is beneficial?
It's discipline.
Yeah. So
Self-discipline.
it does take a certain amount of discipline. And that's a whole other workshop that unfortunately we missed because of the hurricane, was our goal setting. But something that you can do for that is, when you think about like motivation, there's a good chance you'll never be actually motivated to do work, if that makes sense. Because you're always going to, I'd much rather just watch Netflix. So if you frame it as in, I'm not going to wait around for motivation. I need that self-discipline. So I need to discipline myself so that I'll do these things because I know I need to, not I'm going to wait around for motivation. So sort of essentially your study habits are just trying to trick your brain into doing what you don't want to necessarily do. Questions? Cool. All right, and now everybody likes this slide. So treat yourself. So you also just want to make sure you have time to relax. So make sure you plan for breaks. And they've done studies that breaks can actually improve your productivity. So if you're studying for an hour, after that hour, take like a 15-minute break, and then you can start up again refreshed and better prepared with better productivity than if you were to just study for 2 hours straight. So thoughts on that? Does that sound like awesome? Yes?
When does treat yourself day stop? Because I'm on treat yourself day like 365.
Yeah, so that's that self-discipline we were talking about. So you can have treat yourself days every day, but if you're treating yourself every day, make sure there's a reason that you're treating yourself every day, not just because. So earn it, you know? So it's all getting in like that mindset. All right, and so that can also sort of the motivation if you have an incentive to study. So you're like, or if like you have homework assignments due. So, I have 2 homework assignments due in like 3 days. If I get them both done today ahead of time, I'll go get myself some Cold Stone, or I'll go on a shopping spree, $20 shopping spree. We're college kids, you know how it is. That's true, yeah. All right. So practice self-care, very important, because you don't want to just be studying all the time, 24/7. So you want to get that full college experience, socialize, join clubs, and really like get the most out of your college experience, while also doing well in all your classes. Oops. All right. So before we move on to that, any questions on all these things we just covered? One of these days I'm going to just give a quiz. I won't to you guys. All right. Sounds good? Any last minute thoughts? Do you all have any tips of your own? No? Yes.
Staying positive throughout all of it. And
Definitely.
build motivation. Just
Mm-hmm.
not looking at it as like a chore to do, but being excited that you have a challenge makes it more fun, more like open to doing it.
Yep. Yeah. Instead of viewing like, oh, this class is so difficult, I am not going to pass. Instead of having that mindset, view it as, wow, this class is very challenging. However, I'm going to adapt and overcome to ace all of the exams so that I don't have to take the final. So view it in that light, as opposed to, you want to have, again, I keep coming back to like the motivational stuff. You want to have that internal locus of control, which is like a psychology thing. What that means is that, oh, I have the ability to face this challenge, not, oh, the professor is making this class too hard. That's an external, so it's outside of you. Whereas the internal is, oh, I can do things to do well in this class. Cool? Sorry, I threw those psychology terms at you. Any questions, or you want to do an activity? Activity! Okay. So what you have in front of you, you should have in front of you. If you don't, let me know. Okay, I'll get you all some. So what you have in front of you is a student schedule. Go ahead and raise your hands again. And so this student schedule, you can use it in a few different ways. So you can actually just use it to make a schedule. How we're going to use it today, however, is we're going to schedule, let's say, how many of you have midterms in the next week or two? Anyone? Any exams coming up? Oh, that's the last one.
And not follow it.
What? I'll show you. So how we're going to use this today is think about like, everybody come back. Okay, so what we're going to be using this today for is think about assignments or quizzes or exams, or maybe you have papers coming up in the next week or two. And think about where on this schedule you want to actually work on those things. So you can call it a study plan, but you can also just use it like, oh, I want to use this for classwork time. So it doesn't necessarily have to be studying for an exam. It can be, oh, I'm going to write for my paper. I'm going to work on my homework. It doesn't necessarily have to be studying. So go ahead and think about that. The next, yep.
Is there a template, somewhere you get this template?
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up. So you can find this online on our SARC Online webpage. So just Google, SARC Online UCF, and you'll find you'll have course-specific resources and then learning skills resources. There'll be tabs at the top, and you click on the learning ones, and we have a ton of stuff. And this is specifically under time management. Mm-hmm. And that goes for everyone that is possibly watching the live stream or watching this after the fact. So what you can do is you can actually make your schedule. So you can input, oh, I have class, I have work. So you do have an example in front of you. So if you want to rip that off, you can, to sort of compare. This person is definitely has a packed schedule. So they have on their biology class, they're taking history, chemistry, math. So they listed their class schedule, and then they filled in, oh, I want to take lunch at this time. I want to eat dinner at this time. They have their work schedule. They've even scheduled fun and relaxation. So this person has gone sort of all out with their schedule. You don't have to do it this way. So how I would start at the very least is with your obligations. So you have to, or preferably you're in class when class is going on. Hopefully, that's a good starting point. If you work anywhere, that's an obligation, so that goes on your schedule. Then any other, like if you volunteer, if you have club meetings, those go on. Then after you put all your obligations on, look at the empty space. So a lot of times we focus on the things, our obligations, and that's what we put on our schedule, and then that's the end of it. But I want to look at the empty spaces. So those empty spaces are times when you could theoretically be studying. So let's say you go to bed at like 11 p.m., for example. Again, that'll differ for everyone. And you get up at 9 o'clock, again, for example. So 9 to 11, you have all that time where you could be you have that time to do something. We'll say you're sleeping. You're getting like 8 hours of sleep or something. And so looking at that empty space, that's time where you could set aside like, oh, I want to study. Oh, I want to write. Or, hey, I want to just have some free time on Tuesday because why not? Because I have put things on other days that, work for me. And so by doing this and looking at that free spot, you can set aside time. And ideally, this is time that you can do every week so that you can sort of set up that routine, get in the rhythm so that it just becomes like second nature. And so if Mondays, in the morning, you have 3 hours before work, you can wake up like, we'll say 2 hours early. And actually work on things so that you don't have to do them Sunday at 9 p.m. And sort of managing your actual time. So it's time management has sort of become one of those buzzwords, but when you think about it, it's actually managing time. Think about it almost as a currency. If you've taken economics, it's sort of like an opportunity cost. So how do you all like your study plan so far? How's it coming along? How do we feel about our classes this semester? So any questions about the study plan or any tips or advice, like after looking at it, that you might have for me or for your peers? No? I'll give you all like 5 or so minutes to work on that. Maybe less. So, does anyone have any thoughts about this activity or this template? Do you think it's useful or no, not so much?
It's really useful.
Useful. What makes you say that?
You get to like really see like all of your empty spaces of time. So
For sure.
you really realize how much time
Mhm.
you're not utilizing for other stuff. If that makes
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah.
Or lack of time.
Yeah, or lack of time. But yeah, definitely helps you visualize time. Anyone else?
I think it's useful, but I wouldn't really use it.
Okay. What would you do differently?
I don't know, I kind of block it off in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, I just don't think I can.
Yeah, definitely. I understand that. It can help even just putting it on paper if you have trouble remembering it, or just to help you help motivate you to get things done. So if you think about it, oh, I have this to do, I'll work on that when I have time. But if you have it down somewhere, it can be satisfying to just cross it off. Sort of can help with that motivation. But as with everything, it's really going to depend on you and what works for you. So this paper schedule isn't necessarily for everyone. So I actually personally don't use the paper. I use an Outlook calendar. So you all should have Outlook because your night's email is Outlook. And so you can put it on your Outlook calendar and do it that way. And then you just have it with you wherever you go. It's on your laptop. You can get it on your phone. And you can see what your schedule looks like for each day. Cool. All right. Any last minute thoughts on the study plan? Cool. Yes. All right. So if for whatever reason you find yourself struggling with classes, with college life, with whatever, try and develop a UCF support team. So you can go to your professor, academic advisor. We have all these resources on campus, free of charge. So Office of Student Financial Assistance, Career Services, Counseling Center, which is CAPS. Us, Student Academic Resource Center, we have tutoring, SI, and ACE coaching, academic coaching, UCF Cares, obviously just the UCF website as a reference. And then reach out to friends, roommates, find a study buddy, and your family can also be a very valuable resource for, I would say, a relatively tumultuous time with a lot of changes, once you get into college. And definitely try and develop your own style. So there's not a single formula that's gonna say, oh, you'll get all A's, you'll be top of your class, you'll have all the internships, and you'll get a high-paying job once you graduate. There's no formula that really is going to let you achieve that. So it's really going to depend on you and what works for you. So all the ideas that are expressed in this presentation are just a starting point. So take what you've heard here and make it your own. So if you don't really like studying in the library, maybe try studying at Starbucks or studying at the all-night study. So really find what works for you. So college is a time to be flexible and creative. Reflect on your experiences, experiment, and try new things to, really figure out what works for you. And the starting point is to just start thinking about these things. So instead of saying, oh, I need to study, think about how you're studying. Think about how far in advance you're studying. Think about where you're studying. So that's really the starting point for developing academic strategies is thinking about what your current academic strategies are and how you can improve them. So any other questions? No? Thoughts, comments, complaints? There is an evaluation form, so please fill that out. Yes, and I will collect those at the end. If you don't want me to read them, you can put them at the table in the back. I'll still read them after the fact, but you can be mean if you want. Oh yeah, and so if you have your own evaluation form for me to sign, just let me know and I will most likely sign it for you.
Most likely.
Most likely. I will sign it.